And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Good Friends, Better Enemies podcast. My name is Jay, and of course, I'm joined this week by the irascible Tyrone. Tyrone, how you doing, pal?
Terrible. I still have deathmatch on the mind, and I'm not happy about it.
Which match? Sorry.
The goddamn Texas deathmatch.
What, from last week from the Survivor Series?
Yeah, I can't get over that. I'm still mad at you. I hate you. I hate the fact that you made me watch the pay-per-view that I had to watch today to rebook. Everything about this sucks, and I'm not happy.
Yeah, well, it's not too hard to get your goat these days, pal. I just wanted to thank everybody who gave us a listen last week for the Survivor Series 2003 episode. Everybody seemed to really enjoy it. We got some great feedback. A lot of the booking decisions that I made were actually quite positively received by our audience, unlike you, Tyrone, who just seemed
By
to
who?
not like any of it. So,
No. I want to know which audience members like the Texas deathmatch. Because at me, fucking at me. I want to know who. Let's get to the bottom of this.
well, I think that maybe you're confusing a Texas death match with a Texas Longhorn Steakhouse match. In that one's convoluted and one is absolutely delicious. So, with that being said, folks, this week we are covering, rather, Tyrone is going to rebook Cyber Sunday 2006. And this was a humdinger.
Yeah, there really was nothing about 2006 that was good at all, and this is just this event happened. I think is the best way to put it.
Yes, it wasn't a happening, it just happened. That's very fair to say. But before we get into that, folks, this week we do have some items to take care of in terms of our This Week in Wrestling History. Now, Tyrone, I know that you have one that you want to start off with that is kind of near and dear to your heart. So why don't you go ahead and lay it on us there, String Bean?
Oh, Jesus Christ, I haven't been called that in probably 35 years. So thank you there, sweetheart. But 39 years ago, long ago, before we were both born, Pedro Morales won the Intercontinental Championship, becoming the first person to ever hold it twice. And that happened on this day, on the 23rd of November. I mean,
Huh.
come on. Come on.
Yeah, that's a pretty big deal. I mean, the Intercontinental title obviously, was created in 1979 back there in that grueling tournament in Rio de Janeiro where Pat Patterson went over several different opponents to come out on top. But the lineage of the Intercontinental title has been disputed for a long period of time. I mean, for the better part of its run, I'd say the first 20 years or so, it was arguably the number two title in the certainly in the WWF, but it might have been the third or fourth most prestigious title in all of wrestling. And then, of course, it sort of fell off the rails and it was decommissioned for a while and was brought back. So the lineage of the title was kind of muddied along the way. But certainly back in this era with Pedro Morales and becoming a two-time champion as well, I mean, he added a lot of gravitas, a lot of class, a lot of dignity to the title. So very, very
Jay,
good find, pal.
Are you trying to say that a wrestling title has a couple of loopholes in their history? Because I don't believe that at all. I'm pretty sure that they're all straightforward all the way.
I'm fairly confident that by the end of today's rebook, we're going to hear all about convoluting titles and title runs. Well, that being said, I'll offer one to you as well. November 24th, 1983, which was 37 years ago, we had Starrcade, A Flair for the Gold. And we had Harley Race versus Ric Flair in a steel cage match refereed by Gene Kiniski. Now, this match, obviously, this was, if I'm not mistaken, Flair's second title win. But this was the one that sort of counts as the one that blasted Flair off into the stratosphere of being one of the biggest stars in the history of the business. Being put over by Harley in the cage was pretty memorable, and also made him one of the most recognizable champions. He was a real world champion back in the day when people were actually, would go from Hawaii to Hong Kong and back again, and they would defend all around the world. So I think this was quite a notable event to happen as well in this week in wrestling history. And coupled with that, on this same card, we had that epic Piper versus Valentine dog collar match where Roddy Piper had his eardrum busted as well. So a pretty notable card there. Any thoughts on that one, Tyrone?
I'm really happy that you brought this one up because that dog collar match it's hands down one of the best matches ever for storytelling, for violence, for everything. Like if you have never seen this match, go onto the network, go on to whatever you use to watch wrestling matches, and just please watch Piper versus Valentine because it's incredible. But what you were saying about Flair and this being his second reign, but the one that put him on the map, it really is it's his Space Mountain. This is what became Space Mountain with Ric Flair. He wins it from Harley, and he goes on to become the most decorated champion of all time. This card, I have nothing bad to say about this one. We cannot rebook this one because it's fantastic.
No, I can't imagine this one needing a rebook whatsoever. I mean, this is going to be pretty gosh darn close to right on the money in terms of what they were booking back then. Going back to your point about Piper and Valentine, I couldn't agree more. If you look at the violence and the blood and guts, the gore of the match, it was called for. The dog collar match meant something. The stip called for some brutality, and they certainly gave it to us in this match. So I think that this is a perfect case of if you're going to book a stip to certainly blow off a feud or to rev up a feud or bring it to a sort of a crescendo, this is the kind of stip that you want to use. But coinciding with that, you also have to give the stip the respect it deserves. It's one of my biggest gripes with today's product is we have all these different pay-per-view concepts like Hell in the Cell and TLC. And I'm not advocating that we need to see blood necessarily. We do see it occasionally. But I also don't think that we should disengage the audience's suspension of disbelief by booking pay-per-view events or matches that have next to no realism to them in terms of the brutality that the concept conveys. What do you think, pal?
Well, that was something I was going to ask you. Is do you think that the dog collar match would hold up right now, or would it just be so completely watered down that it would not matter whatsoever? Like we would see an episode of SmackDown where I don't know, give me like the Usos versus I don't even know who the SmackDown tag. Oh my God, what are their names? The Street Profits. Like, do you think we would ever see a dog collar tag match like that, and it would live up to what this one was, or would it just be so watered down that it would be terrible?
I don't know that we'd necessarily see it in a tag team situation. I think it'd be more along the lines of something that you would book Roman Reigns in, being the big dog. Being his gimmick and his moniker.
I see. Okay, I see what you're doing there, but I was kind of doing a little bit more of what this show is about with the fantasy booking. And have we ever seen a tag team one, and would it work out?
I don't think I've ever seen a tag team dog collar match. I'm sure that one's happened at some point in history. To answer your question, no, I don't think that it would live up to what it was back then today. I think, again, going back to one of my biggest pet peeves or gripes about today's business, like I could see one of the guys wrapping the chain around his fist and just hauling off and hitting somebody in the face or in the forehead, and there'd be no color, there'd be nothing, there'd be no bruising, nothing. And I just think that completely takes me out of it. In fact, I think it's disrespectful to my intelligence level when you're going to haul off and hit somebody with a fist that's laced with a steel chain. I have a hard time believing that guy doesn't even have a bruise on his face. So to answer your question plainly, no, I don't think that this kind of gimmick would hold up in today's wrestling whatsoever. Maybe in something like an AEW, but certainly not in the WWE.
Now, I'm the first to admit that I don't watch a lot of AEW, so you might be right there, but I can't really talk about that one. I think I've seen in the just over a year they've been around 3 episodes of their show. I haven't been overly impressed with them. I know I'm going to get some heat on that, but it's just how I feel. I'm not a Fed guy. I'm just not an AEW guy.
No, I definitely know you're not a Fed guy. I agree with you. I mean, there are certain aspects of AEW that I find very refreshing, and they go back to sort of the roots of what I grew up watching in wrestling, the things that helped me fall in love with the wrestling business. I think that there's definitely some missteps as well. there's been some huge gulfs for me in terms of my believability. But I do applaud them for thinking outside the box and trying things as opposed to the cookie cutter-esque WWE product that we get today, where you really can't distinguish between one show or the other. Even with the separation of the rosters, you can't really tell who's on what show anymore. I mean, look, you just struggled to figure out who the tag team champions were. And if I'm not mistaken, maybe they are on SmackDown now, but up to a few weeks ago, the Street Profits were on Raw. So I have a really, really hard time following any of the current WWE product for that reason. It's all sort of blending into one big color portrait of blah for me.
I get what you're saying, and I get that competition is good for the product, but I have always looked at it like this, and I know you're a fan. You haven't been the biggest fan, but I've always looked at Ring of Honor as realistically the best wrestling, at least in North America. And then AEW came around and they took, for lack of a better term, all the spot monkeys from Ring of Honor, and then they took a few people from WWE, and they kind of started building some momentum, and then it just seems to have stopped over the last little while.
I truly think that the COVID, the global pandemic we're in right now was a big killer of their momentum. It'd be very interesting to see where they would be right now had we not all been in lockdown for a few months and had this COVID situation, this pandemic we're all living through on a day-to-day basis and sort of biting our fingernails waiting for the next news story in terms of numbers and all that kind of thing. I think that they were building a tremendous amount of momentum, and had this not happened, I think they might have been at a much higher level than they are now. Whereas with WWE, I feel that they're in a holding pattern, and they have been since.
I'm not trying to shit on AEW here in any way, shape, or form, because I have seen some tremendous stuff from them. The whole Jericho Le Champion thing was fantastic, but that's Jericho. But you look at somebody like Shawn Spears. We were both at that NXT show in Toronto where the crowd just kept chanting 10 for everything that he did.
Yeah.
And then he debuts for them and does a couple of quick spots. I think he's still under contract with them, but we haven't heard from him in how long?
No, you're right. I will say, not to get into an argument here with you, but I will say I think there is a distinction between somebody's catchphrase getting over and somebody being over. I would sort of make it analogous to like a Bobby Roode when he came in with his theme song. I remember that glorious theme song was all the rage for eons after he debuted. But was it Bobby Roode that was over, or was it the crowd's interaction with the theme song that was over? I'm not saying Bobby Roode wasn't over.
No. But when it comes to Bobby Roode, Bobby Roode has been a world champion in at least one major federation going on. And when it comes to that theme song, yeah, it was super over to the point that when I got married, I walked down the goddamn aisle to that. So thank you, Bobby Roode, for that one.
Well, it was originally supposed to be Shinsuke Nakamura's theme song, if I'm not mistaken.
I couldn't fit into that red leather onesie though. It just did not. I looked too much like everyone was asking where in the world was Carmen Sandiego. They looked at me and went, "There's Carmen Sandiego right there. We can see him, no problem."
I think Peterborough had a Vaseline shortage for a couple of weeks after. So, with that being said, let's move on to the next piece of business here. I think that you have another fairly monumental moment that happened about 25, 26 years ago here, eh?
26 years ago to the goddamn day, Bret the Hitman Hart lost the World Wrestling Federation Championship to the greatest technical wrestler of all time, Bob Backlund. It was a weird match. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sit around and pretend like it was the greatest thing ever. But I like the fact that Owen had Helen throw the towel in order for him to lose. I thought that was fantastic. And it took the belt off Bret. So I'm happy. Everybody wins.
Let me see. I just want to make sure that I heard this correctly. You're telling me that Bob Backlund is the greatest technical wrestler in the history of wrestling?
Yeah. Let's go with one of.
Yeah, I thought maybe you'd want to walk that one back a little bit. He certainly is phenomenal, and he was over for his day. Yeah, this match was kind of strange. I thought this was actually a pretty decent Survivor Series top to bottom. I did enjoy it. It wasn't obviously one of the best ones, but from an enjoyability and watchability standpoint, I did enjoy it. This particular match went a little too long for my taste. I think it was close to the 35, 40-minute mark. And for a submission match that was really, truly all about submissions and holds, I mean, I love that kind of wrestling, but 40 minutes of it is a little long for me. I think especially since the chicken wing was the crossface chicken wing, that is, not the buffalo chicken wing, was on Brett for in excess of 10 minutes. So that was a pretty long stretch to try to hold your attention, even with the commentary team of Willa and Vince.
That being said, though, like, you got to look at something like, I can't believe I'm defending Bret Hart right now, Jesus Christ, but he grew up in the goddamn Hart family. They were in the dungeon. Stu was probably stretching them for hours on end. So it was kind of believable in that aspect. And I'm sorry that this match took so long and you didn't get a chance to see Jerry Lawler, sleazy, queasy, and cheesy take on Doink Dink, Wink, and Pink a little bit more, because I know goddamn you wanted that.
Well, why can't we split the difference? I mean, who doesn't want a little bit more of cheesy and Pink and Wink? But for me, I just sort of think that this match could have accomplished what it was going to accomplish in a little bit of a shorter time frame. I'm not saying it was a horrible match. I'm just saying they could have told the story in a little bit of less time. But I understand why they did it, and obviously Owen being, the one that convinces Helen to throw in the towel, and she tears it out of Stu's hand. That was just epic stuff. I mean, you can't watch that match and not be blown away by Owen's performance. It was incredible, and even Helen as well.
Stu and Helen were fine for what they were. Helen by this point kind of looked like a female Skeletor, and Stu just looked like somebody you didn't want to fuck with, and that's how he always looked. But this one, to me, really proved that Owen Hart is the best Hart of all time, because he swayed his parents. He got them to throw the towel in on their little son. Oh my God, my brother is crying. Throw the towel in. Fucking A. The guy deserved a goddamn Oscar, not just a Slammy for that one. Come on now.
I don't know if he deserved an Oscar. I mean, he did it. Maybe an Emmy, because it was on TV. I don't know. Do they give Oscars for pay-per-view? But anyhow, with that being said, that actually leads into my final moment in this week in wrestling history, which is, I believe, 6 days later.
Don't do it. Don't ruin my goddamn bubble right now, you son of a bitch.
We had Kevin Nash, known as Big Daddy Cool Diesel, win the World Wrestling Federation Championship in Madison Square Garden over Bob Backlund in 8 seconds. And this would begin the 358-day reign, the longest of the 1990s, of Big Daddy Cool Diesel.
Yeah, you call it the longest of the 1990s. I call it the worst of the 1990s, because I really can't think of a reign that was worse than his in the 90s.
With the Warrior?
Oh, you know what? The Warrior couldn't work, but the Warrior was fucking entertaining, and I will debate that until the end of time, whereas Diesel just walked out all trying to be cool, raised his arm, did something with the belt, did this, did that, jackknife, go. Diesel was shit. I'm sorry. Diesel was not a good worker. When I look at Diesel, I think his best work was Kevin Nash in the NWO, 100%. But I can't get over the fact of Vinny Vegas and Oz. They were so terrible, but I feel like they were only giving the really terrible gimmicks to the really terrible workers, such as Kevin Nash.
Okay, first of all, Kevin Nash didn't have an opportunity to become a great worker because he wasn't working enough in WCW to learn those skills. When he came into the Federation, yes, granted, it took him a little while, but I remember that Royal Rumble '94 when he was just clearing the ring of people. He was doing that spot that so many guys that they had wanting to put the jetpack on was doing. He was there clearing guy after guy. I mean, it's not dissimilar from what they did with Roman Reigns and what they did with Steve Austin. It's a formula that worked for a long time. You would just get somebody over by having them eliminate a whole mess of people. I don't think that Kevin Nash was nearly as bad a worker as you seem to think. He certainly wasn't, a 5-star worker, but I think you could, with the right opponent, get a really good match out of him. And you'll talk about the match he lost the title to, Bret Hart at the Survivor Series in '95. That was a phenomenal match. Good Friends, Better Enemies with Shawn Michaels was a really good match. Not to, be too much on the nose with the title of this podcast. And of course, his matches with even The Undertaker were decent. So I don't think you can sit here and say that he wasn't a good worker. I think you just had to have the right opponent, the right dance partner, if you will.
Okay. Let me ask you this: we're both bigger guys, and we both appreciate a big man wrestler from time to time. If you had to rate Kevin Nash in all-time best big man, where's he land on your list?
I would say he's in my top 10. I wouldn't.
What? No. He's not in anyone's top 10 but yours, Jay. I hope you know this.
That's fine with me. You don't have to be you don't have to be part of my list. Doesn't make a hill of beans to me, pal. I like who I like. You like who you like. Doesn't make a damn to me whether or not you like them or not.
And
for me, I get
definitely like some. No, I like some big guys. Don't get me wrong here. Some of my favorite wrestlers are big men, like Bam Bam Bigelow, Yokozuna, Andre the Giant, Big John Studd, King Kong Bundy, and I just named 5 right off the top of my head that are already way better than Kevin Nash. And I didn't even say The Undertaker or Kane, so you reaching top 10 is really hard to believe.
That's fine with me. Again, like it doesn't matter to me what you think. Like I am happy with my choice. I didn't say I was going to put him at the top of the list. I'll tell you, Sid wouldn't make my list. Kevin Nash would though. So, I mean, you can pick whoever you want. This is the whole point of the.
Okay, but answer me this: are you putting Nash over Bam Bam Bigelow? Honestly and truthfully.
No, I'm not.
Thank fucking God.
If we're doing it for work rate, then no, of course I'm not.
But if we're doing it for stripper,
no, I don't.
See, when I think Kevin Nash, I think 2 things, and it's terrible what to them, but I think of Super Shredder, and I think of terrible jumping jacks in the Magic Mike movie. If you've never seen that goddamn movie, go back, watch it, and the scene that they're all on stage doing their jumping jacks and their stripper routine, Nash is not moving his legs. He's just throwing his arms. I'm actually doing the motion in my hands right now. He's just looking like a wine cork opening up and down.
I was just going to say, isn't that like your exercise DVD, that particular scene? You just watch it over and over again?
What's exercise, bud?
Okay. All right. Well, on that note, let's keep moving along here, folks. We covered this week in wrestling history. Now, the last couple of weeks, we've covered just one particular performer. The first one being Eddie Guerrero, and last week being The Undertaker. So we thought that this week we'd add a little bit more to it and cover a little bit more of a broad-ranging perspective. This is typically how we're going to do it each week. We want to touch on a couple of different things, hopefully from different eras. But speaking of eras, boy, howdy, was this an era. Ladies and gentlemen, we are on to the Cyber Sunday pay-per-view in 2006. It emanated from Cincinnati, Ohio at the U.S. Bank Arena, and the date was November 5th, 2006. It was a Raw brand exclusive pay-per-view, and the concept of this was that fans could email or vote online, and they'd have choices as to who certain competitors would face in matches, as well as stipulations and guest referees. And then, of course, it would be tallied up in real time, and we would be offered our conclusions for what match would be happening going forward. With that being said as well, I just do want to point out that to my understanding, and I believe Tyrone's as well, I don't want to speak for you, that these events were on the up and up. They were a shoot. They would actually tally votes, and it wasn't something that was kayfabed. So I do appreciate that part of it. But with that being said, Tyrone, do you have any interesting facts or figures going into this event? Anything going on in and around the wrestling business at this time?
Just that 2006 as a whole kind of sucked. There was really nothing good going on in this year. We were reeling from the death of Eddie Guerrero. We were getting a Rey Mysterio title run at Mania that year, which it was a feel-good moment. It was deserved, don't get me wrong. It was fantastic, but 2006 as a whole can be forgotten in my books.
Yeah, I completely agree. In fact, full disclosure for me is I took a break from wrestling from June of 2006 until right around WrestleMania time. In fact, I think the first event that I watched coming back to wrestling was WrestleMania 23. I was just so burnt out from the product. I felt that it got really, really repetitive towards 2005, 2006. Tried to give the benefit of the doubt with the Ruthless Aggression era, but some of the stars that were getting over at the time were just, as I said, a little bit too repetitive for me. I was kind of over the Cena train at this point. Now I have a lot of respect for Cena, but at this time, I felt like he was being pushed way too hard down our throats as fans. So for me as well, the whole reunification of DX, I love the build up to going back to putting them back together with the issues with Vince McMahon and the Spirit Squad. And each week, both guys would get kind of destroyed individually, and then eventually they would come back together as a team. I thought that was really cool. And some of the spots that they came up with in terms of their, goofy DX-esque spots that were obviously for obvious reasons much different than they would have been during the Attitude Era. They were a little bit more clever. They were less, what would the word be? Offensive.
Okay, Jay, can I just interrupt you for 1 second here?
Sure. Yeah.
So when I say 2006 as a whole sucked, there is one event in that year that I do love, and that's Unforgiven, only because I was at that event, and it does hold a really soft spot in my heart.
Yeah, in Toronto, yeah.
Yeah, but what you're saying about the DX rehash, I hated the DX rehash. It did not. I get why they did it. People wanted to see it. It was nostalgic, blah blah blah. But at this point, you had the COO of the company and a born again Christian trying to make dick jokes funny again, and it just wasn't funny.
No, that's exactly where I was getting to. Actually, was I was just trying to set it up by saying that I did enjoy the angle getting them back together. I thought that was really well done because it built anticipation each week. When are they going to put them back together? I like that. And a couple of the original promos that they had in the ring when they first got back together and some of the funny stuff they did with Vince, I did enjoy. But this was right around the time that when they got back together that I disconnected. I was like, I'm just so over this. This is what they have to go back to now. And I agree with you. I didn't like it at all. I think that their 2009 reunification was actually much better. But yeah,
that being said, the only thing that DX did when they got back together, and I think it was the 06 run, I'm not sure, it could have been the 09, but when they did the mocking Vincent Shane with Shawn dancing in the ring like an idiot, that was funny to me. That was one of the only things I popped at. But overall, like, do you remember what it took for Michaels to get back together with Triple H for this? It was him working in a cafeteria.
That was in 2009.
Oh.
That was after the loss to The Undertaker, and we hadn't seen him since WrestleMania 25. And then Triple H was on a hunt to find him, and then one day he was a TV repairman, the next one he was a chef. Those were kind of funny vignettes. But yeah, no, I'm with you. I think that the 2006 run, the only one that I really popped for huge was when they started screwing around with Vince's mic, and he sounded like Darth Vader and stuff like that. I thought that was pretty funny. But anyway, that's the story of 2006, I think, folks. I mean, for huge marks like myself and Tyrone, for me to say that I didn't even watch most of the year and for Tyrone to think it's completely forgettable, I think says a lot about this card. So I dare say that the pressure's on, Tyrone, for you to book a good card here for us, buddy.
No, it's not, because if my card sucks, it's still going to be better than the one they have here, and I stand by it.
That's absolutely true. I'll give you that. So do you have anything you want to introduce to your card here? Any changes to the concept or any changes to anything before we get into the actual card?
No, I kept the concept the same with all the voting and things like that. Like, there might be a couple of things where I change either what might have been the participants or the match type or something like that. But every single match is still a fan voted match because I felt like it was important to keep the integrity of the event in that aspect.
Okay. That's fair. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's absolutely your prerogative. I think going forward, there are going to be events where but either one of us will look at them, and they might be a conceptual pay-per-view or a concept event, and we'll just be like, no, that's not going to work. We'll scrap that. But I think it's cool that you rebook this with the concept being what it is. So with that being said, I'm going to get right into the first match here.
No, hold on. The one thing I will say is the only thing I did change is I know it is a Raw only pay-per-view. There are a couple of spots where you might see a SmackDown or ECW guy pop in because that's what they were doing at the time too. So I said, fuck it. If they're going to do it, I'm going to do it.
No, for sure. And that makes it fun too, especially with the voting, I think, probably, right? So, all right. So our first match here on the card is Umaga with Armando Alejandro Estrada. His name is defeating Kane in a singles match. What do you got for me, bud?
Okay, let's just start off by saying how fucking cool was Armando Alejandro Estrada. He was such a throwback to old school managers. I don't think he gets his due. He deserves all the due in the world because we didn't have managers at this time, really, and he was killing it in that role.
He was great. I do agree with you. I think he was probably the last throwback manager we've had.
All right, so for this match, I did a little bit of a replacement. So originally it was Umaga versus Kane, but Kane beat out Chris Benoit and somebody else who I'm blanking right now. Sandman, right? Yeah. So this one I kind of replaced it, and I took the World Heavyweight Champion Booker T was going to face the winner of a fan vote, and it was going to be Umaga, Kane, or Chris Benoit. And Umaga wins the vote. So we have still Umaga versus King Booker now, and Umaga is winning the World Heavyweight Championship in this match. I think that is something that should have happened. I think, unfortunately, due to circumstances beyond anyone's control, Umaga left this world way too early. I think he had all the makings of a world heavyweight champion on him, and this would have been the time to pull that trigger because we saw a little bit later down the road he would face Super Cena. Cena would beat him, I think twice, once at the Rumble and once at the pay-per-view after, and it just kind of derailed him to a degree. With this, you put the title on him, you keep him strong. Umaga's going over.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate that at all. If I'm not mistaken, Umaga was still undefeated at this time too, so it would kind of help to tell that story as well, that he just ran through the first world champion he had a crack at. I do have to ask you though, I'm just curious your take. I think you kind of already answered this in your booking, but do you think that there was any element of Umaga that was a little bit hokey for 2006? The gimmick?
We've spoken about this to a degree in the past where you have said to me, wrestling, the beautiful thing about that is it just takes the reality out of it. You can't combine reality. Like, I can't think of the exact quote that you use. I think it was suspension of belief.
Suspension of disbelief, yeah.
And Umaga is that character that he could still somehow be, if you find somebody in the woods or a savage, or I'm really trying to play PC on this and not be a dickhead, but if you find somebody who wasn't raised around anything and he's in a tribe or he's in something like that, and you find him and he just destroys everybody because he doesn't know any better. It's kind of like the Mowgli of 2000 and what was this, 2006?
What a great reference. I love that.
But it's like Mowgli, and you almost look at Armando Estrada as the Baloo. He's just teaching him the bare necessities. He's just got to fight for his life.
This is my favorite ever. I love that you just brought the Jungle Book into this podcast. That's awesome. You know what? I have no retort for that. You win. You totally win. I don't think that he was hokey either. I was just curious because I could see how some people could look at the Umaga character and be like, why is a wild Samoan wrestling in 2006? Like, so
because it's professional wrestling. That's
no,
why.
I know.
Why but at the same time, like, I'm not trying. I swear, I'm not trying to get hot. I'm just rebutting because I know people online will say something about it. But Why is shoving your thumb in someone's throat a deadly finisher? Because in reality, it fucking is.
Yeah, I can't imagine that would be a fun day at the office. I memean, at the very least, you'd be gasping for air. I mean, to me, it's actually a fairly finish because you'd definitely be down for a 3 count. So I don't know if it was necessarily.
And at this point with Booker T doing the King Booker gimmick, he could afford to lose that, and then they could build it up, or Booker loses the King Booker gimmick down the road, and he
Yeah.
comes back just as the I guess at this point 6-time world champion, and he tries to end Umaga's winning streak. I think that's solid booking at least until the Rumble.
No, I agree with you. I could definitely see it being a case where he maybe book King Booker as the sort of goofball king gimmick, just doesn't take it seriously, and then just gets his ass handed to him, and then maybe comes back as a more serious version of the character. Yeah, no, I think it's great booking. I can't argue with you. We're gonna have disputes here and there. Obviously, we have with every episode, but we're obviously gonna agree on some stuff too. So I really like that a lot, and I definitely think it's no offense to Kane. I think Kane's a phenomenal performer, but I definitely think that this is a much better opener for this pay-per-view, and it also provides some shock value as well. Like, holy cow, we had a title change right at the top. So good job, man. I really like that a lot. Now, moving forward, we have Crime Time, JTG and Shad Gaspar defeating the Highlanders, Robbie McAllister and Rory McAllister, Charlie Haas and Viscera, Lance Cade and Trevor Murdoch in a Texas Tornado match. Not
okay, so this one was a little weird to me just because I don't think this match had to be on the card at all whatsoever. But whereas last week you completely tore apart every match and rebooked it, I tried to go a little different this week and at least keep some of the participants in the match. So we have a straight up tag match with Crime Time versus Caden Murdoch. And the choices of this match that people are voting are a table match, a TLC match, or guess what, Jay? A Texas death match.
Texas Deathmatch wins. Texas Deathmatch wins.
You're goddamn right it does. So we have Crime Time versus Caden Murdoch in a Texas death match.
But they're in Cincinnati.
They're in Cincinnati. That's fine, but I'm pretty sure that at least Murdoch or Cade might be from Texas, or they're playing somebody from Texas. So I'm okay
back
with
to
it.
This again. It has to be a Texan in the match. Come on.
This is going to be a theme. I hope you know that throughout the night. But we got Crime Time going over because at this point they really could do no wrong. They were destined to do wrong because they were stealing everything and not doing anything by the books, but they had the fan support. And I'm sorry, but I thought Crime Time was fantastic.
No, I enjoyed that gimmick as well. I thought they were great.
Sorry, my headphones just fell out. I don't know what you just said.
No, I just said I enjoyed the gimmick as well, Crime Time. I thought they were great. And I actually really enjoyed Lance Cade and Trevor Murdoch as well. Specifically Murdoch. I thought he was such a throwback. He was such a throwback.
Have you seen any of his work that he's done in NWA Power?
I have, and I really like it.
It's so goddamn good. And unfortunately, Lance Cade, another one who left us way too soon. But when you look at this goddamn match, why the hell are Viscera and Charlie Haas a team? I don't remember. I kept looking it up. All I could think of was they're both horn dogs at some point or something like that. Charlie Haas is so underrated. That man should have had a world championship run at least twice in the company.
Yeah, well, maybe they should have renamed him Shorty H, like Shorty G. I mean, for crying out loud, like I can't agree with you more on that point. I mean, especially like what was Shelton Benjamin doing at this point? Why not just put them back together as the world's greatest tag team and have them run roughshod over the tag division? Like, I'm not saying that they couldn't those guys, but like, why would you team it with Viscera?
Oh, I completely agree. And also, looking at the Highlanders when I watch this, I swear to God, they're the Viking Raiders. Is that their name now? I swear they're them, but 100 pounds lighter.
Yeah, that's actually really true. I like that a lot. That's great. It's like, yeah, they got released and went and hit a sizzler and came back 10 years later.
But as you did last week, I threw a throwaway Texas death match in here because these guys deserve it as much as Kane and Shane does. So fuck it, why
Sure.
not?
Absolutely. Why not? Why not use a Texas death match? A blow off stip on a cold match that has no heat whatsoever. No, I agree with you. Good job on that one.
The fans wanted it, Jay. The fans wanted it.
Okay. Well, fair enough. That's why the fans don't book, except for us. We book every week. Right here on the Good Friends, Better Enemies podcast. Now, moving forward, we have Jeff Hardy defending the Intercontinental Championship over Carlito Colon. What do you got for me, buddy?
Do you remember who the other people were that Carlito won over?
I certainly do. I most certainly do.
Well,
I'm buying time.
Let's pause for a second here while Jay goes on Wikipedia.
Carlito, Shelton Benjamin, and Johnny Nitro. So
that answers where was Shelton Benjamin at the time. He was getting a much better push than Charlie Haas was.
Most certainly
so
was.
In this one, I have Jeff Hardy defending against the winner of Goldust, Shelton Benjamin, or Charlie Haas. And who do you think won this one, Jay?
Hello, Goldust versus Hardy. Face paint versus face paint.
You got it, buddy.
And I'm guessing we have a 3-time Intercontinental Champion.
As much as it pains to say it, Jeff Hardy defeats Goldust.
Oh, rats.
I know where Goldust belongs. He belongs in nostalgia by this point. Although he did come back in, 6 years after this? 5 years? When was the Stardust Goldust tag team?
Well, when I went to WrestleMania 25, which is in 2009, he had a match at the WWE Access against Mike Knox. So he was still at the company at that point.
Goldust is a good hand, and he always will be, which is why I think him and Jeff Hardy would tear the house down. I also only put him in there because I don't think that people were voting Shelton or Charlie. As much as that would have been amazing, we got Goldust going over in the vote, not in the match.
I don't hate it. And you have Jeff just going over clean with a twist of fate or
SWAT. Yeah. He probably took a couple of shots of whiskey and then hit that twist of fate because Jeff Hardy, or maybe an Oxycontin. I don't know. Fuck you, Jeff Hardy. I will always say that. I think you are the most over gimmick that shouldn't be over. You haven't changed your gimmick in 20 some odd years, and you're still out there doing the same goddamn thing. Jeff Hardy, retire. Plain and simple.
He's a really nice guy, I'll tell you that.
That's great. I love nice guys. I don't want to see them on my TV in their cargo shorts and fishnet shirts doing their gun salute.
Yeah, I guess I agree with you to an extent. I mean, he hasn't changed his gimmick much other than maybe evolving his face paint and things of that nature. He really hasn't done much to change his gimmick. I do agree with you. But I think it's one of those things that maybe there's a thinking that if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I mean, he's always been so over that maybe they just don't feel like he needs to evolve much. And it's certainly not at this point in his career. I don't see him changing his gimmick much. I don't, he has more career in the rearview mirror than he does it, in the windshield. So I think probably keeping him where he is now makes the most sense. But no, you're right. I mean, he hasn't really evolved his gimmick much. But again, you can. There's a lot of different ways you can skin a cat. So
I don't know if your rearview mirror joke there was a drunk driving reference or not. Because if it was, I applaud it, and if not, just say it was because it's funnier that way.
Yeah, I know. I wasn't a joke about drunk driving. No, it wasn't. I
look at but I look at everybody who's been with the company for at least 15 to 20 years, and even if they haven't evolved their character completely, they've done little things to help tweak it. You look at Orton. We'll get to Orton in this era at the time, but he was just terrible to watch. His promos, his everything like that. You look at Triple H, he evolves. Undertaker evolves. I'm not trying to put Jeff Hardy on that same level, I hope you know, but Edge completely evolved. Jeff Hardy, still the kid listening to fucking, I don't know, who was popular back, Limp Bizkit, and doing his thing and not getting over.
Yeah. What about, but there was also that faction with Orton and Batista and Triple H and Ric Flair. What were they called again?
Evolution.
Yeah. So there you go. Evolves, evolution. Yeah, evolution is it's just passing you by, right? So no, you're right. You're right to an extent. I'm not going to disagree with what you're saying necessarily about Jeff Hardy. I'm a fan of
But
his.
you look at, no, and I'm not a fan of his in work in the past. But you look at the things that he did. What was it, 5 years ago in TNA when they were doing the Broken Hardy thing? That was fantastic. It was reinventing both of them, and Matt ran with it. Where Jeff just kind of stopped and went, you know what? I'm going to go take this payday and provide for my family. Which, good for him. I can't say I would do the same thing if I was in his shoes, but he also has had that whole thing where he's an artist and he doesn't want to let anyone hold him back. And he has that hydroploxy. His band has so many question marks in their title. I don't know what the hell it says, but it's like, come on, dude. You're being the biggest hypocrite out of everybody right now, and I hate you for it. And just get off my TV.
Fair enough. So Goldust loses then, is what you're saying?
It really hurts me to say that, but yes, Goldust loses. Jesus, we took a long time to get there, didn't we?
We sure did, pal. We sure did. But God bless you. We're getting a fired up, a red-assed Tyrone today. So I will take it.
I'm sorry. This show left me with nothing. So right now, I've got to bitch about people on it. I swear to God, the next match I actually rebooked properly and we're going to have some fun with, but we'll get to that when you're ready to.
No, that's fine. Let's go right ahead and get into it. Rated RKO, Edge and Randy Orton defeated D-Generation X, the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, and The Game, Triple H. Now, the stipulation in this match was that you could choose a special guest referee. Your choices were Eric Bischoff, Jonathan Coachman, or Vincent Kennedy McMahon. What do you got for me, pal?
So I kept the stip the same, the special referee, because I was like, we can have some fun with this. So stip number 1 is Vincent Kennedy McMahon. Stip number 2 is Christian. And stip number 3, I don't know why I'm calling them stips, but choice number 3 is
I was
Marty
wondering,
Jannetty.
Tips. What can you explain this tips?
Choice 3 is Marty Jannetty.
That's
Marty Jannetty wins the vote.
Of course he does.
Oh, he's the nostalgic one. You have to. Vince apparently lost the original vote by a landslide, so I don't see him beating these guys.
Well, yeah, because Vince was on TV almost every week, so it wasn't like that's why people chose Eric Bischoff in the original because they hadn't seen him for like a year.
So here's how this match plans out. Rated RKO is still getting the goddamn win because they should. It turns out that HBK hits the Sweet Chin Music on Randy Orton after Triple H hit him with a chair. Jannetty realizes what happened and he won't count the 3. He's torn between calling for a DQ, calling for the 3. Him and Michaels get into a little shove off. It turns into Jannetty shoving him into an RKO out of nowhere. 1, 2, 3. Rated RKO wins. They celebrate. They go up the ramp. Triple H is just done at this point. He just can't look at Michaels. They've lost to these people that they shouldn't have lost to. He goes up to Marty Jannetty and tries to actually talk to him, sees what happens. Bam! Rocker dropper out of nowhere. Marty Jannetty is the new hottest heel in the goddamn company.
Sorry. This is my favorite booking ever. So you're telling me in 2006, Marty Jannetty is going to cost DX the tag match and then wipe out Triple H afterwards?
I didn't say he wiped out Triple H. I said Triple H left because he didn't want to look at Shawn.
Oh, I thought you said. Okay, I misunderstood. I thought that he gave Triple H the rocker dropper. You're saying he gave the rocker dropper to Shawn.
After Shawn went to him to try and appeal, like, what happened there? This is what happened. And then, bam.
So we're finally going to get that Shawn Jannetty match at WrestleMania that was, 13 years in the making?
Well, you'd think so, but then remember Triple H tore his quad, so we couldn't get that original match, so it had to be Shawn. So no matter what, we're not getting this match.
Couldn't you put Jannetty in the main event of Mania and make it a triple threat?
I could, but why would I do that?
That's fair. No, I'm just having some fun with you, man. I don't hate it. I don't like that Jannetty is so prominent in the match. I like the fact that he's in it, like he's a choice. I think it's a kind of fun choice for a referee. Him being involved with the match to this level is ludicrous to me. But I think it's fun booking, I will say, for fantasy booking. It's quite
also, Marty Jannetty was under contract in 2006, which is why I chose him for this.
Yeah, that's true. He was under contract for a little while. I think even back into 2007, he was under contract. So yeah,
it didn't work out no matter what. But I mean, fuck, what could have been would have been awesome.
Yeah, so why don't you tell me a little bit about how you would have booked Jannetty after this? Like, how would you have booked maybe Jannetty and Shawn going forward? Would you have done something with them?
Yeah, they would have each captained the Survivor Series team. Jannetty's team would have been him, Goldust. Who else do I like? I don't know. No, Triple H would have been on that one because DX would have broken up, which is the best thing about this. I got nothing, man. I can't book this one on the fly. This one took a lot of fucking research, and that took a lot out of me. But we're getting a couple of we're getting a team versus team match at Survivor Series. We're getting a TLC match at, I don't know if it was TLC yet in December, but that's what we're getting, and that's the payoff because Triple H tears his quad, so we have to, unless we're booking without that knowledge.
Yeah. I'm just having a little fun with you, buddy. I personally don't hate this idea. I really don't. I just don't see Jannetty being that prominent at this point in this angle. Although, if you go back like a year and a half, they did include Jannetty in that angle and Michael's feud going into WrestleMania 21. So I guess maybe there is some merit to it, but I don't know.
And I'm sorry, but the only reason Bischoff was in this angle is because he had a book out. So Jannetty at least has storyline in the history. Bischoff has nothing to do with either of these people in the match.
Yeah, no, but you're right. I mean, Bischoff did have a book coming out. I guess they're trying to synergize that, try to get some publicity for his book. Yeah, I mean, I don't hate the idea what you came up with. I just think you picked the wrong guy. Just for me, that's just my opinion.
You would rather have Christian? Because Christian is the most underrated human being ever, but he deserves to be the most underrated human being ever. He did nothing. The only time that he was ever prevalent in anything was when Howard Finkel would announce Edge and Christian as Christian and Edge because it was alphabetical. Other than that, Christian can suck a lemon.
Don't you remember when he had that feud with Orton in 2011 and he was the world champion and he went back and forth? That was awesome stuff, man. One more match.
Wasn't it like 3 days that he held the title?
It was still an awesome feud. You don't have to go by title.
And I met Christian a couple of times. I have a beautiful photo of him and I. I'm wearing a wonderful polyester black and blue flame shirt, which I'll throw up on the socials so people can rip on it. But come on, the man's not a world champion. Marty Jannetty's a world champion, not Christian. Let's get real.
All right, so RKO goes over then, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and if you don't think that Marty Jannetty deserves a world title, guess what, Jay? You can grow the hell up.
Oh yeah, I thought you were going to tell me you had 2 words for me. Do you have anything else on this one, or can we mosey on down to the front porch here for the next match?
Front porch it is, bud.
All right, Pally. Well, we got Lita defeating Mickie James in a lumberjill match for the vacant Women's Championship. And before you say anything, yes, I knew that there was a Women's Championship match on this card. No, I'm not a misogynist.
You took the fucking words right out of my mouth, you son of a bitch. I love you, but you did it.
I am a fan of women's wrestling, so please move on. That story has been run into the goddamn ground.
So as somebody who is always been a fan of women's wrestling and me, and not just the bra and panties matches, but the great things that they can do, I totally space on the fact as to why the title was vacant. Even though I was at the event a month earlier. So what we have here, we still have... What's that?
They did a tournament.
Yeah, but did they do a full 8-person tournament, or was it only 4? Because I couldn't find the quarterfinals to kill me.
It was 10. No. It was weird. I don't know. This bracketology doesn't make any sense to me. Because you had people...
I need to see the full 8-person tournament, because why the hell is Maria Kanellis in the quarterfinals? She's fantastic as a heel manager, but as a wrestler, Maria Kanellis cannot hold up to these people. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't really understand this either. One of the matches was a bra and panties fatal 4-way, it looks like. And then the other ones were like just straight up matches. I don't really understand how this works at all. This is really, really odd.
2006, folks. This is what we had.
Yeah,
so,
I agree with you. You have Maria in a match, with Lita.
Right,
so you could add Maria in the match.
So I hate to just say this, but I'm keeping both of them in there, because I don't hate to say that. I hate to say the fact. I don't know what I'm saying. I've had a beer. We're going Mickie James. We're going Mickie James and Lita still, no matter what. But I'm getting rid of the lumberjills, because they were really, really hard to listen to during the match. And they're all out there in mini skirts and heels. No one's believing that they're getting into a fight.
Yeah, no, I see no purpose of having a lumberjill match other than having the divas out on the, for the crowd, the live crowd, and obviously the pay-per-view audience at home. I mean, the way that they are objectifying women in this era, that sort of explains why they're there. But there's no need for them being there.
I went with the same 3 steps that they had, because I couldn't for the life of me think of a better step that the 2 ladies would have than a no DQ match. And I still have Lita going over, because it leads to her retirement down the road. But in this no DQ match, the only reason that Lita's winning is that Ashley Massaro finally gets her vengeance on Mickie James and takes her out. And Lita gets the win.
Okay. Interesting. So, and Ashley and Lita kind of have, in a way, a similar kind of look and a similar kind of vibe. So, and then maybe that maybe forces Ashley to get
Okay. Can you please define the similar look and similar vibe, because I'm not seeing that at all.
Well, they both had tattoos. They both had, hard rock theme songs. They both had piercings. So they kind of shared some of the similar presentation points. They're obviously quite different, but there was some overlap and similarity.
Hey, Jay, I have tattoos. I'm over 300 pounds, and I like Johnny Cash. Does that make me the Undertaker?
It could. It
But
definitely.
it definitely doesn't, because again, we're talking about women's wrestling, so Jay sees them all the same. Lita and
I
Ashley
do not
Massaro,
see
the
them all the
same.
time. Do not, don't do that. That's, yeah. That's not fair. You can't say stuff like that. I don't see them all the same.
What
I'm
if
just saying them.
what if I just start yelling puppies? Are you going to look at the TV screen though, like your idol, Mr. Jerry the King Lawler?
I love Lawler. He's phenomenal. He's great. He's won more titles than anybody in the history of the business. He's phenomenal. Got a hell of a pile driver.
But he couldn't beat Andy Kaufman, who beat all the women.
Will you stop? I'll have you thrown out of here in a minute.
Anyway, all I have to say about this match is it turns into a no DQ match. Ashley helps Lita win. Ashley is seconding Lita. She joins the Rated R staple. We end up with that going into Survivor Series.
So sorry, Ashley joins the Rated R, like the Rated R KO stable.
Yeah, it's Ashley, Randy Orton, Lita, and Edge.
So does she start seconding then Orton for his matches?
No, she mainly stays with Edge. It's kind of like a China Miss Kitty thing with Jeff Jarrett back in the day.
Okay, so like it's almost like Ashley's almost seconding Lita.
Essentially, Edge is getting all of everything, and Randy is just sitting there watching.
Okay, so this is going to lead to something, I'm sure. I like this booking, actually. I like this booking a lot. I know we've agreed a lot on a lot of stuff tonight. Some of it is insane to me, like the previous match. But this one, I don't hate this. I like the idea of somebody like an Ashley getting the opportunity to be taken a little bit more seriously in her role. Getting the opportunity to work in a main event act like that, and maybe not be just put out there as again eye candy for the audience. This is what they were doing with a lot of the women at this time. I don't agree with it. I know you think I do. I don't, and I don't want to hear any more about it that I do, because I don't. But I do think that this is a great way of utilizing some female talent at the time and elevating them into a more mature and more I guess more equitable spot, I guess, is the best way to put it. I like this booking. I think
I think one thing that we can actually agree upon is that the Diva search was terrible to find a wrestler. You wanted somebody to be your Nitro girl, I guess, for lack of a better term, for Raw or something like that, sure. But don't host a Diva search and expect them to be the next wrestling champion, because it's never going to happen.
Well, if you thought that if you're looking for legitimate wrestling, female wrestling, like in-ring talent, you would have had a Mae Young Classic type thing. You wouldn't have had this. This may as well have been sponsored by Playboy. I mean, I understand some of the women that were involved with this were highly athletic, and I won't take anything away from any of them. But to try and have one of these women emerge as a top female wrestling star in terms of in-ring skill, and give them the type of platform that they gave them without giving them the proper amount of training, that's I mean, you're setting it up to fail. But again, that's not what it was about in that
time. No, but I have a question for you. We've all talked about Tough Enough in the past. Actually, we haven't on this show, and I'm sure we will at some point. But when you think of the Diva search, is there anyone that comes into your mind as somebody who actually turned out to be a really good wrestler? And I swear to God, I'm not trying to set you up as a dick or anything here, because the only one that comes to my mind is Michelle McCool.
I was just going to say the same thing, Michelle McCool. Layla as well was decent. I thought she was decent in hand.
I guess Maurice was okay to a degree, but
yeah, Maurice was capable. I mean, I think that she was one that got better as she went along.
But if you're hiring any of these women to go up against Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania, are any of them making the cut?
I think Michelle McCool could. I think she was extremely athletic, so I think and she took to it quite naturally. So I think that if you brought Michelle McCool back today, I think she could still go and have a pretty competitive match. So
Did the
I think
Bellas come
anybody
from
Michelle,
this or no?
pardon?
Were the Bellas part of the Diva search at some point or no?
They might have been. I
Because
don't
I'm not going to
remember.
lie, even if they were, I will openly say this: I love women's wrestling. I think it's fantastic that we have that right now. I think the Bellas almost ruined it.
See, and I disagree with you. I think the Bellas are vastly underrated for what they actually did to help propel women's wrestling. They were, to me, they were the stopgap between like the bra and panty stuff to bringing it to where it is today. I think that they helped usher in that era, and I also think that they were grossly underrated in their in ring ability as well. So
I will go out on a record and say that I think Nikki is way better than Brie,
I
but
agree with
Brie
that.
Bella is a terrible wrestler, and the fact that she is, and I know just because you're married to somebody doesn't make you better at them. She's married to one of the best wrestlers in the world and one of the best trainers in the world. You would think he would show her a thing or two. The only female I can think of in the same line is Stephanie McMahon. She's not a great wrestler, but she's married to one. She's the daughter of the best promoter in the world. And can Stephanie McMahon throw a drop toe hold? No. But can she sell? Yes. I'll
Well,
take
but
Steph. No, go ahead.
no, I was just yeah. I think you're comparing apples and pomegranates here. I mean, like Stephanie's job in terms of being an in-ring performer was never meant to be like I don't think to be like a really solid catch can wrestler. I think that every situation that she was ever put in terms of being in a wrestling ring, she was the antagonist that was getting her comeuppance, and that was her job, was to sell, to cheat, to take liberties with her opponents. She wasn't gonna be throwing drop toe holds or putting on Indian deathlocks. So I think that she played her role quite well. Now with Brie, I do agree that because she was a weekly in ring character, that her in ring work, I think it got better. But I also do agree with you that the standard was a little higher for her. I think because she was a weekly in ring performer. So that's the way I see it.
I'm going to put you on the spot right now. From 2005 till 2000 and let's say 12, the most underrated female wrestler. Who do you think it is and why?
I'd say Victoria. If we're just talking about Fed, I'd say Victoria or maybe Gail Kim. I think both of them were extremely capable in the ring as performers from bell to bell. But again, we're going back to the same discussion we had going previous, where you for a large part of the era that you just the two bookends that you just said, 2005 to 2012. So much of that was based on the bra and panty stuff. You weren't getting a lot of in ring stuff. I think there's some women that were in that era just starting out that have gotten the credit now, or that are still competing today that have gotten that credit. But if you look at that era, if we had the same kind of wrestling that we have today back then, I think that a Gail Kim or a Victoria would have been, highly regarded as, multiple time champions. And maybe an AJ Lee as well. She was quite talented, but definitely Victoria and Gail Kim would be my two choices. How about you?
I got to go AJ Lee and I got to go with Michelle McCool, to be honest with you. Because if we're going Fed only, because I think they showed the most promise out of everybody.
Yeah, I mean Michelle McCool, I think that she got a really good run though with Lay Cool, and she was the champion. I think she got a really decent run, and she might have still been in those Divas matches that were less than 5 minutes on every pay-per-view, but she was at least having matches. She wasn't involved with the bra and panty stuff as much, and she was still involved with it a little bit here and there, but she was one of the more credible champions at the time. AJ Lee, I think, had coming into the company at a point where the bra and panty stuff wasn't really happening as much anymore. In fact, I think by around 2012, we really weren't seeing that at all anymore.
Jay,
Whereas,
Jay, I got to cut you off on one thing here because I feel
yeah,
like people will get angry at us that we didn't say Trish. I'm saying debuted between those years.
No, but you also said underrated. I don't think that Trish is underrated. I mean, maybe in a sense, she could be a little bit higher rated in her accomplishments, but I don't think she's underrated at all. We're talking about, my understanding is that we're talking about people who, given the opportunity, could have been much bigger stars or much bigger performers than they were. And I definitely think that if the framework for the women's division was different back then, we could have seen some really phenomenal matches with certain performers. I think that's where I'm coming from.
So I'm going to throw this out there for you right now. And I'm only doing this because this pay-per-view is so shit, so I feel like we need some more to work with. But Trish Stratus, overrated, underrated, right where she deserves.
Underrated in that sense that she deserves more credit than she gets for her contributions. I think that she gets a lot of credit for the fact that she helped build that women's division from being almost exclusively brawn panties and, those sable matches and things like that, good housekeeping matches and things of that nature. I think that she gets a lot of credit for helping to rebuild the women's division along with others, the Jackie Moores and the Ivories and the Litas and Molly Hollies and people like that, the Victorias, trying to build the women's division back into something that was athletic. It was an in-ring product that was bell to bell, quite good and snug and riveting in-ring action. But I do think she deserves more credit for her being one of the pioneers of getting the women's division to where it is today. I think if you didn't have Trish Stratus, the combination of beauty, strength, resiliency, unbelievable charisma, all these different wonderful attributes that she had at that time, I don't know if we necessarily would have gotten to where we are today. Maybe we would have, but it would have maybe taken a different turn or it would have taken longer. So I think she definitely deserves a lot more credit than she gets. But in the same breath, I don't think that she's underrated either. So I think she deserves more, but she definitely has gotten a lot of high praise.
I actually agree with you completely on that. I think that Trish is the person that really was the one, her and Lita, I really define as the two that helped take the level to where it is now for the women's division. Without them, we wouldn't have the Candice LeRae's, we wouldn't have the Shotzi Blackhearts, we wouldn't have all these young women trying to actually show their skills and not just be the next woman who looks good in a thong, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. No, exactly. And that's my point too, is that I think that the audience, especially the WWE audience, was so preconditioned to having these models on their television programming. I don't think that if you had certain, women's wrestlers that weren't models on the television, I don't know that they would have necessarily gotten over to the same extent that like a Tori Wilson or a Stacy Keibler would have. So that's why I kind of think that Trish checks all the boxes. So does Lita. A lot of the women, actually, I'd say all the women that were on the roster at the time were gorgeous and extremely talented. But my point is that because you condition an audience to expect one thing for so long, that if you suddenly throw something else at them, I don't think it would have worked. Whereas, they checked all those boxes to propel the women's division into where it is today.
Well, there you have it, folks. Jay is not a misogynistic prick like I thought he was. He actually loves women's wrestling.
Yeah, thanks very much for that backhanded compliment. Okay, moving on. Next, we are going to go with Ric Flair and Roddy Piper, with Dusty Rhodes and Sergeant Slaughter defeating the Spirit Squad, Kenny and Mikey, with Johnny, Mitch, and Nikki for the World Tag Team Championships. What do you got for me, Haas?
Okay, so with this, Jesus, I don't even know where to start with this one because it was just filler. I'm sorry. I hate that Ric Flair was filler, but he was. And at this point, I kind of kept it similar where you have the legend voting, but Ric Flair is getting taken out by the Spirit Squad at the beginning. So he's not even in the event. So you have Dusty Rhodes and Roddy Piper coming out and winning the title in a Texas death match for the second time tonight.
There should be a stip that you can't repeat stips.
No, we make our own rules, and I made this one that we can do as many death matches as we want. If Shane and Kane get one, then I get two on this one.
Okay, so why no Flair? Why Piper and Dusty?
Because I said that Flair gets attacked before the match.
No, I understand, but like, did you just not want to Ric Flair on the card, or
no? I love Flair. I love Flair. You know this, and he was getting to the point where he could still put on a match. It wasn't great, but it was good. But at the same time, if you were just going for the nostalgic vibe, go for two legends. We knew Sergeant Slaughter was not going to win that. I love Sarge, but come on. He stood no chance there. So you do Flair getting taken out. You do Rhodes and Piper coming in. We get a bionic elbow. We get a sleeper hold for the goddamn finish in a Texas death match, because that's what you do.
So he put him to sleep, then he pinned him, and then he got counted out.
Exactly. And you have new champions. The legends reign hold.
I love it. I'll take it. Absolutely. And I know, to your point, you are right. I mean, Flair was a weekly character at this point too. So definitely having, Piper and Dusty as the tag champs would be fun. I mean, it would probably last like a week or two at the most, but it was definitely fun. Yeah, you know what? I agree with you. This event is so ass backwards in so many ways that for you to give the fans, this was like a let me up, like popcorn match in a lot of ways. And you are right. I mean, Flair would have this spot a lot of times at this time period where he would be sort of like the popcorn match on a lot of these cards. So I'll give it to you, man. I mean, I don't think you could have booked this much better. You're going to get a couple of legends defeating a couple of young guys that are going to bump all over the place. The Texas Death Match stip is so stupid for this match. But other than that, I'll give you the nod.
It's so stupid for every match that we have booked it in. So we're going to keep that going.
No, yeah. And just to let you know, folks, if Tyrone's going to make a thing that every single event he books now is going to have a Texas Death Match, I don't know how much longer I'm going to be on this podcast. So, and then you can do it by yourself, which would be fun.
Well, welcome to our last episode, folks. I hope you like that.
Yeah, we hope you enjoyed our trilogy. We did A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and this is our Return of the Jedi. So,
and they're better than the original trilogy. So that's all that we can ask for.
Yeah. Darth Vader goes over and Luke Skywalker turns into Alpo. Yeah. Okay, I'll give you this. I think that you did a good job. I would have personally, I would have preferred to have seen Sarge in there just because I love Sarge. But I get it. We haven't seen Dusty Rhodes in a ring in how long? Probably 15 years at this point, at least 10. So yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie, dude. I was never a Sarge fan growing up. Like, I don't know if it was the turncoat thing in the early 90s, but I've never cared about Sergeant Slaughter unless I'm watching a G.I. Joe cartoon.
I'm much more a Sarge mark now than I was when I was growing up. And I will say, actually, to your point, another reason why I think it was a good choice to pick Dusty was I feel like for a long time when they would bring a legend out, it would always be Sergeant Slaughter. Like when they did like somebody on Raw that they needed to kill, like they had Legend Killer take out Slaughter. They had La Resistance take out Slaughter. I think they had Chris Masters take out Slaughter. And I love Slaughter, but I think for a good chunk of time there, we were getting Slaughter every time we had a legend. So this is a fun, refreshing choice having Dusty Rhodes there. No offense to Slaughter, who I love.
And with Dusty in the match, it makes sense for a Texas death match because he's from Texas, motherfuckers.
Jesus. Yeah, I told myself I wasn't going to drink this week. I'm just drinking like turmeric tea right now, but I might have to spike it. I can't take any more of this Texas death match nonsense.
Well, wait till you get to the main event, bud. Wait till you get the main event.
Perfect. I cannot wait. This in the I think right now you're almost like the Tim Burton of rebooking wrestling matches right now. Like you're just so over the top and just very, very out there with some of your thinking and
I
psychology.
like to think of myself as more of the Michael Bay than the Tim Burton.
Yeah, no,
It's just going to be somebody shows up and explosion.
yeah, maybe. I don't know. I've given up on this one. All right, are you all done with our nostalgia pop here?
I mean, for fuck's sakes, you didn't leave me much to book here. So, yes, I'm done with that one. Let's go on to the main event.
Yeah, okay. And the main event of the evening, which I must tell you, ladies and gentlemen, if you did go back or you're planning to go back and watch this event, has it actually happened on the WWE Network or wherever you catch your old school wrestling pay-per-views? This one was a barn burner. And when I say that, I mean it as sarcastically as I possibly can. That was dripping with sarcasm, folks. King Booker with Queen Sharmell as the world's heavyweight champion defeated Big Show and John Cena. And Big Show was the ECW champion, and John Cena was the WWE champion. And again, this was a miracle. Let's hear about it, pal.
Well, we already took Booker out of this because I already booked him in the opening match.
That's
and
right.
He lost his title. So for this one, we have the WWE title match. John Cena taking on either Undertaker, Batista, or Mr. Kennedy.
Mm-hmm.
Undertaker wins the votes. And guess what, Jay? Undertaker wins the title. Because we had Umaga take the SmackDown Championship and bring it to Raw. So as time tells us, we have to take the title off the other guy to go to the next brand. So now Taker's beating Cena, and he's going to SmackDown with the WWE title. And it leaves us all the horrible / great, depending how you look at it, John Cena and Umaga matches for the future. But for a different title, and John Cena's chasing the title. Rip it apart, bitch. I dare you.
I don't think I can. I think that's much better. I think Cena's one of those guys who was good when he was chasing. I think he's kind of like Austin in that way, that certain guys are almost better when they're chasing the title than when they are champion. I mean, Cena had a long title run on multiple occasions. I think he's up to 16 now, tied with Flair. But definitely I liked him when he was chasing more so than he was when he was champion. Undertaker winning makes a lot of sense. I think you can keep more or less all the storylines that going into 2007 kind of the same. The only thing that would have to change would be Taker's winning the Rumble in 97 or 2007. Sorry. No, I think this is pretty decent. I mean, listen, I gave you a really bad card to rebook, and this was a really, really rough one to watch. So I'm not going to be too hard on you this week. We've already disagreed on a lot of stuff. This Texas death match nonsense of yours is just, I understand you're booking it out of spite, but at the same time, some of these are so stupid.
I'm not booking it. The fans are. So if the fans want to see it, then we do it.
Yeah, but all I'm just picturing you in like underwear with like the brown stain in the back and the yellow stain in the front, sitting there with some like, Christian t-shirt, chewing on bugles, picking, hitting repeat behind your keyboard. So,
well, actually, today it's an Adam Cole Bullet Club T-shirt because too sweet for life, bitch.
But you're not disputing the underwear situation.
I got track pants on, which is not much better, but we'll do that.
And what about the bugles? Did you hit bugles or what are you on?
I wish I had some fucking bugles, but I'm waiting for the food delivery from Dairy Queen from the wife.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, Dairy Queen's pretty good, but I don't mind a good old fashioned nacho bugle every once in a while. Anyhow, folks, we're on to bugles here. So obviously we're not too into this main event. I think your booking was quite good. I mean, it's obviously better than anything that they booked on the actual card. Really enjoyed the idea of the Undertaker winning the title. I think it makes sense, as you said, from one guy, one title going to one brand. Although I think it would be fun at some point to have both titles on one brand and figure out how you're going to get the other one onto the other side at some point might be kind of fun. Or maybe you dispute it and do like a Rumble 92 kind of thing with one of the titles being on the line for the, in the Rumble match itself. I think they did that in 2016, if I'm not mistaken. And that's how Triple H won the title. But anyhow, yeah, I think that this is a lot of fun, the way you've booked it. You've definitely made this card a lot better than it was. We've had some disagreements here. I know, folks, sometimes you're looking for fireworks with the two of us, and you've had some pretty good thunderbolts of disagreeing points here tonight. But in terms of this card, I mean, you really can't go wrong. You can't make it any worse, I don't think so. Kudos to you.
Oh, well,
a good job.
I think there's going to be some fireworks between the two of us in the next couple of minutes, my friend. I'm not going to lie, because I've decided to veer off of the script for a little while.
Okay. What do you got for me, bud?
Well, I was thinking about it, and I know that we have actually been those people that say what we're going to do for the next event, and then we decide to let each other know ahead of time. We kayfabe it a little bit if we would, but I'm going to fuck with you a little bit tonight. I'm actually going to throw you a total fucking Hail Mary that you don't know what's coming. You're not doing what you think you're going to do next week, but I decided to screw with you a little bit.
Okay. That doesn't sound like something you've ever done before. Not sexually.
Well, originally, we were going to do the Wrestling Classic next week, because I don't know why Jay won't torment himself with that one, because let's be real, 1985, you can't rebook a lot. So I thought, and this is news to Jay, because I think he's already rebooked the Classic, so we're going to actually throw a big wrench in his plans right now. Next week, Jay, I got nothing. We're going to rebook Evolution.
The stable?
No, I want you to rebook the female-only pay-per-view Evolution.
Uh-huh.
And this is actually, legitimately, this is the first time that Jay is hearing of this, and I cannot wait to hear what he says to me later tonight off the air.
No, that's fine. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that card quite a bit.
I do too. And I think this is your redeeming point. You want people to know you're not a chauvinist or any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, nobody thought that until you started planting that seed. I am the furthest thing from that. And I don't know where you got on this high horse of yours to tell everybody
Let's prove it. Let's prove it, bud.
All right. Yeah, that's fine. I'll rebook that. I don't care. That's no problem.
And I would like to throw something out to you right now, my friend.
What's that?
Let's do this. Let's rebook it on the fly. If we think we have something that we're going to do, let's just leave it up to at the end of the episode. You'd be like, oh, no, you go do this one. We got a week. Why the hell not?
I don't know if I fully understand what you mean by booking it on the fly. You mean just booking it as we're talking on the podcast?
No, okay. Booking on the fly, I mean, we don't... I don't know what I'm saying. I've had a couple of wobbly pops.
That's okay. I'll tell you what, folks. What we're going to do is we're going to sort this out off air. But what we're going to do right now is that you are correct. I'll tell you what. I have already booked the Wrestling Classic, rebooked it rather, and I will put that in my back pocket for maybe a bonus episode at some point down the line. Might be fun to drop something on you, some content on you at some point when you aren't expecting it. But that's fine. Challenge accepted, pal. I will rebook the Women's Evolution pay-per-view next week, dropping next Monday. That's no problem. A little bit outside of what we had in the framework for the next few episodes, but I am more than happy to do that, and I'm more than happy to rewatch that pay-per-view because I think it might have been the best pay-per-view of the year that year, so I will definitely relish going back and watching some of that stuff. For sure.
I think he's mad, guys. I genuinely think he's mad that I dropped this on him, and I'm really okay with it.
I genuinely don't give a rat's ass what you think. But no, I'm fine with this. I really am. I'm not upset in the slightest. I'm happy to go back and watch this event. I've rewatched it a couple times because I just personally enjoy it quite a bit. So I'm more than happy to go back and watch this one again. I'm already thinking the wheels are already turning about the way I would have rebooked a couple of these things and maybe brought a little bit more gravitas to the event, maybe changing up some of the people that are in certain matches. But
Jay, I'm
yeah,
gonna throw
it'd be
you.
hard
I'm
to
gonna throw
rebook
you
that
a
one.
life. I'm gonna throw you a lifesaver on this one though, which I don't think you were expecting. But we're gonna do WWE Evolution next week. You can put any living or dead female superstars in any match that you want to see. So this is your dream matches. Whatever you want, go for it.
Okay, no, I appreciate the lifeline. I don't think I'm going to need it. In fact, I think maybe what I'll do is I'll amend that a bit, and I'll go with people that maybe weren't physically able to compete at that time, or maybe were contractually because they were in different promotions. Maybe I'll do something like that. But I'm not gonna resurrect those that have passed on. But I know I actually like this curveball you've thrown at me. It's kind of fun. And as I said, I'm going to have a chore ahead of me only because most of this event was so well booked that it's going to be hard for me to rebook it in a better way. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. Tyrone, do you want to quickly just go over your card again real quick and just let everybody know how you rebooked it and just telling us what the matches were and who went over?
Absolutely. We had Umaga going over King Booker for the world title. We had Crime Time going over Murdoch and Kane in a goddamn Texas death match
Oh
because
God.
we only need one every now and then, according to Jay. We had Jeff Hardy going over Goldust. We had Rated RKO going over DX with Marty Jannetty's help. We had Lita going over. Oh, now I'm the massages 6-1. Mickey James. We had the Legends going over the Spirit Squad, and we had John Cena losing to the Undertaker. And that is how I rebooked Cyber Sunday 06.
That certainly is how you rebooked Cyber Sunday 2006, and a very good job you did of it too. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to get busy starting to take notes on the WWE Women's Evolution pay-per-view. If you have any comments or questions, please feel free to comment below. You can also reach out to us on our Twitter page at good_enemies, and I believe our Instagram handle is good_enemies on Instagram.
That's correct.
And let us know what you think. How did we rebook it? How did Tyrone do this week? You can tell him he did a great job. You can tell him that he needs to go suck an egg. There's all kinds of different things you can tell us. Just feel free to drop us a line at any time. And until next week, when we are in the midst of the first ever women's WWE pay-per-view, Women's Evolution, you have listened to the Good Friends, Better Enemies podcast.
Bye.